Hey, I'm FTFE and welcome back to the channel that dips stupidity in pig's blood and throws it to a pack of hungry wolves. Today we're talking about a flat earther who defies the very laws of probability by never ever getting anything right. It's like some crazy superpower of his. The ability to be wrong. All of the fucking time. In fact, it's quite impressive. I couldn't be as wrong as him if I tried. Everything he says is wrong. I am, of course, talking about Leaky Warrior, aka Anthony Riley himself. It's almost time for the voting for Red's Rhetoric's Dumb Fuck of the Year, and if you aren't convinced by now that he should be this year's winner, then this video should show you all you need. Just as a little teaser, Sleeping Warrior once said that the Earth is round during the day, but flat at night. Yeah, see what I mean? Strap on some facepalm protection and remove all sharp objects from your immediate surroundings. It's the 5th time Sleeping Warrior has been the subject of Flerfs are idiots.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Thank you for joining me once again for a look at what happens when you feed your child lead paint straight from the can instead of baby formula. Sleeping Warrior is just mind-blowingly stupid. The amount of dumb shit he says has surpassed all known methods of measuring stupidity, and I'm pretty sure is the actual reason that aliens won't talk to us. Sleeping Warrior, aka Riley, aka Clucking Warrior, aka Leaky Warrior, aka Half Asleep Dumbass, aka Mr. 5 divided by 0 is 5, doesn't understand anything. Prime amongst the things that he doesn't understand is gravity, buoyancy and density and the relationship between them. He thinks the Titanic sinking disproves gravity. Man, that's fucking stupid. Let's find out how stupid.
Boats prove there is no such thing as gravity.
No, they fucking don't, you mental patient. You're going to say it's all relative density, aren't you? Well, if that's the case, as the boat in your lovely diagram is less dense than the water it sits in, why is part of the boat under the water? It's almost like there's some kind of force pulling the boat down a bit, isn't it? Weird that, huh?
Remember, in a scientific experiment, the independent variable is the presumed cause. The dependent variable is the effect. Well, if we were to make a boat that had 1,000 kilograms that displaced water that was less than its 1,000 kilograms, the boat's going to sink. But if it was displacing water that was significantly more than the 1,000 kilograms the boat weighs, the boat is less dense than the medium and it'll float.
You know what? Archimedes figured this shit out over 2,000 years ago. And you keep mentioning weight. You're obviously aware that there is more to it than just density, but what you're missing out is that weight is literally defined as the mass times the acceleration of gravity, F equals mg. Without gravity, there is no weight. You're a fucking idiot, Ding.
What if we got a boat that gradually changed its mass? So its 1,000 kilograms gradually became 1,050, 1,100, 1,150, 1,200. If we started to fill water into the boat so that its mass was increasing, and then the displacement of the water around it became the inverse of what it was at the start, we know what's going to happen, don't we? It's going to sink.
Well, that's two different things you've just said. Filling the boat with water will change its mass, but more importantly, its density. And if we look at the formula for buoyancy, if you increase the density, you decrease the buoyant force that acts in the opposite direction to gravity, meaning gravity wins and the boat sinks. Now, if we just make the boat bigger but maintained its density, it would still float. I think you're getting confused between mass, weight, density and buoyancy. But that's not surprising. You need a triangle calculator to figure out the internal angles of an equilateral triangle, and you still couldn't do it.
Well, the one I'm using it's not giving me any when I do it. So either this calculator is wrong or you're wrong.
The Titanic demonstrates that as the mass of the boat increases relative to the medium it's in, it'll sink.
I'm surprised you're not jumping up and down in excitement about the fact that the density is also increasing. Because that's actually more important here, because imagine if you get another Titanic and just weld it to the side of the first Titanic. You've increased its mass there, but it wouldn't sink. The density would still be less than the surrounding water, which means the buoyant force would still win in the struggle with gravity. I know you won't understand any of this because you think density, which is a scalar and has no vector, is a force. And that's really fucking stupid.
We all know the story, it hit an iceberg and it took on water, and the more water it takes on, it's increasing its mass. It's not displacing as much water anymore, because the water's now filling the beaker, the bottle, the container. And obviously, we know that as you fill the container with more and more water, it loses its buoyancy. I say that word reluctantly because buoyancy has got little g in its maths.
Yes, you're right, it does have little g in its maths. Just like weight does as well. And it doesn't matter if you said it reluctantly, you still said it. And what does that little g stand for? Desert file?
Gravity, you fucking retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity! Gravity!
But really, it's not that it's losing its buoyancy, it's just gaining density relative to the medium it's in. It's becoming more heavy.
Density isn't a force. We all know that. So that's not going to move it, is it? Density is part of the buoyancy equation. And it's getting more heavy, you say. So it's gaining weight. You do realise you're proving gravity here, right? No, of course you don't, because you're a fucking idiot. Ding.
And obviously, as the Titanic starts to sink, it's taking on more and more water. It's demonstrating that a gradual increase in its density is going to, at some point, it's going to send the boat under, which is, of course, what it does.
Yep, you're right. It's almost like there is, I don't know, some kind of force pulling it down, and the force that was keeping it on the surface has decreased. A force. What could that force be, I wonder?
Gravity, you fucking retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity! Gravity!
Remember, in a scientific experiment, the presumed cause has to be manipulated to prove that it is the cause of the effect. Well, if the captain manipulates the density of the water by putting a big hole in the side of it and then water starts coming in, and the boat then sinks, the cause of the boat sinking was the increase of the mass, because he's added mass to his boat relative to the medium it's in.
Are you saying that the Titanic sinking is a scientific experiment? Are you really saying that? My God, no wonder you go on about density. You're dense as fuck. How do you not collapse into a black hole? And here is the problem with your basic way of thinking. It's the same with your egg experiment.
This is an egg.
Yes, thank you, we know that's an egg. You say that there is only one cause and we can't presume anything else. Well, that's a really stupid way of thinking about the physical world, because it doesn't actually look at what the actual cause could be. If I press the light switch, is that the cause of my light coming on? Or does that light switch activate a circuit allowing current to flow and heat the filament in the light bulb? That current itself being generated by an offshore wind farm, which is powered by changes in pressure and temperature in the atmosphere, causing wind, which itself is a result of the sun's energy hitting the earth along with the earth's rotation. Why do you stop at the most basic of observations? I know why. You have to fit your narrative. Also, you're a window-licking moron.
Unexpectedly, the captain of the Titanic proves that the cause of boats sinking is relative density, because he adds more mass. That changes its density, because mass per volume, it changes it. More mass, same volume, and then it gives way.
Yes, but why? What does changing the density do, Leaky Warrior? It reduces the buoyant force. Stop being so basic. Actually, don't. You're doing a great job of showing why you should be dumb fuck of the year this year.
autumn of 2016, I witnessed my first rising of the harvest moon. I've never seen a harvest moon before, not because I've never looked for it, but I've never had any reason to look for it. But in 2016, I was into the flat Earth discussion. I was quite challenging stuff, and I realised that the harvest moon is different than heliocentricity explains. The moon's supposed to be 240,000 miles away, give or take, apparently. But if you actually witness a harvest moon rising, you will observe a vast difference in size to what the moon normally looks like. Now, we've all seen the moon. The moon is, generally speaking, for me at least, it's around the size of a 5p piece. Now, for the Americans out there that are not that sure what a 5p piece is in terms of money, this is the 5p piece here. It's a small coin. I saw the harvest moon, and it was more like a £2 coin. The £2 coin is obviously significantly bigger. How much bigger becomes a bit of an issue, because when I make the statement, it appears to be 8 to 10 times bigger than normal, I actually mean it's about 8 to 10 times bigger. It might be 6.7, it might be 10.2, but in any event, it's significantly bigger.
Gravity is an essential intrinsic part of the heliocentric model, and of course I don't accept that gravity even exists.
Well, that's because you are a... You know what? I need an expert for this.
Anthony Riley, you are a fucking idiot. Hey, Fight, you know JM Truth is still gonna win Dumb Fuck of the Year, right? Let me give you guys a few reasons why. First, hey, wait, stop that censorship.
My position is that density and buoyancy explain everything that we see and observe day to day. There is no requirement or further explanation required other than density or buoyancy, and of course none can be contrasted or distinguished from density or buoyancy.
Except, you fuck nugget, as you accept you can't use buoyancy because that requires using gravity, because the buoyant force is created by pulling down the more heavy and dense water around the less dense object, creating a force in the opposite direction to the local gravitational vector.
I'm trying to prove this fiction that is called gravity. But in the Scientific American, you can find this by searching for the phrase here highlighted in blue. You can find it yourself by George Musa on November the 1st, 2015. A quick synopsis of what this article's about. Physics now suggests at the most fundamental level that the universe is non-local. There is no such thing as place or distance. Newton's concept of gravity seemed to imply the phenomena of non-locality because of the attractive forces between masses appeared to act magically across expanses, and Einstein's general relativity instead ascribed gravity to the curvature of space-time. I'm going to read that again. Albert Einstein's general relativity instead ascribed gravity to the curvature of space-time. This is the current understanding of gravity. Whether it's right or wrong isn't the point of this video. This is the current accepted version of gravity.
Yep, and that's what we've been trying to get you to understand. Newton never had a theory of gravity. He simply developed a mathematical law around a very basic observation. There appears to be a force acting on everything, causing a downward acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared. Einstein developed general relativity that says it wasn't actually a force causing this downward acceleration, it was the effect of mass warping space-time in such a way that causes things to fall into it. Either way you describe it, it is the same thing as far as we need to be worried about, because that force is still felt.
This is important because for those that believe that Cavendish proved somewhat with balls in a shed observed through a telescope, through a peephole, whatever he thinks he did or didn't prove, for any ball earther to cite this as the science to prove gravity is proving whatever he thinks he's proving, but it's antiquated, out of date. It's not the current science. The current science states clearly that Einstein's general relativity is the curvature of space-time, and this is the current science.
Yes, we understand that, But you don't, do you? Because Cavendish still witnessed an attractive force. Just because you don't understand Einsteinian concepts doesn't magically make that go away. I suppose you could say what Cavendish witnessed was the large masses warping space-time enough to make the smaller weights on the end of the torsion bar fall towards them. He still witnessed that happening, however you explain it.
So Cavendish is out the window. So unfortunately, Sly, Einstein created his general theory of relativity, which provides our modern understanding of gravity, with the express purpose of expunging non-locality from physics. Newton's gravity acted at a distance, as if by magic, and the general relativity snapped the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time, and not an invisible force, gives rise to our gravitational attraction.
Amazing! You just read something perfectly, without understanding a single word.
Now again, my position is not that this is true. My position is simply that this is showing that Newton's theory of gravitational attraction is no longer this magic force that seems to exist, that they want to believe exists. It's actually, apparently, according to Einstein, the curvature of space-time. And again, this is not my position.
Well, it's my position. You're not much more than a talking monkey.
But this is what the current science says. And the rest of this article can be ignored. You can read it yourself.
I read it all, and you really shouldn't ignore it. In fact, if you remember, I interviewed the guy who wrote it, George Musser. Let's see what he said.
The kind of message, overall message of that article was to look at kind of a progression of scientific ideas. So Newton developed his law of gravity really based on Kepler's laws, and brought his observations of Mars and the planets in our own solar system and their orbits and positions. Newton developed this law of gravity that we're all taught. But even Newton and his contemporaries had a real problem with that law, namely that it didn't seem to, it described gravity's effects, but it really described how gravity works. And Newton actually in his own life tried to develop, unsuccessfully as it turns out, an understanding of how gravity works. What is actually communicating the influence, for instance, between the Earth and the Moon, or between the Sun and Mars, etc. And he really fell to Einstein. Einstein's role here was to really fill in that mechanism. He explained how is it that objects, massive objects, exert what seems to be a force on one another.
Passage of time is a perfect example of that.
Or manipulated by the researcher.
No, varied or manipulated by the researcher. It is or, not the word and. An independent variable is a variable that stands alone and isn't changed by any other variables that you are trying to measure. It doesn't matter what is casting that shadow, dude. It's the fact that it's cast in shadow to begin with. That is the only thing we fucking care about.
You've got to cause it by manipulating it. And if you don't agree with the phraseology of this one, let's see whether overall, the overall story from all of the citations...
So you're literally saying that a shadow cast by a person is different than a shadow cast by a tree or a building.
I'm saying that you've got to cast... I'm saying that when you put the red spot on the dot on the wall and you claimed the 4 degrees, and I said, yeah, but there's not really a control there to prove that, is there, right? You claim that as a...
I'm literally asking you.
Come on, Reds, don't interrupt.
Shadow. I'm literally asking you the shadow equals shadow here. But apparently the shadows are different according to you. How? Please explain that to me.
I'm trying to, but you keep interrupting.
Oh.
Well, if you claim that the laser pen caused a 4-degree increase in the temperature, I want to see the same thing being done to cast the shadow by proving that when you cast the shadow by causing a summit, whatever, that it goes up. Because, or down in your case, because you said that the direct moonlight was warmer than the shade. Well, I want you to demonstrate that by proving, by causing a shadow yourself, and then demonstrating it with your thing. And that's the same standard, but in reverse.
Well, keep in mind, Anthony, that 2 degree difference I picked up with the shade side being colder was over a 2-hour period. It's not going to be something you're going to spot instantly.
But that's not what you said before. Get that video back up. Let's see what you show.
It absolutely is. The moon has been shining on the west side of the building for 2 hours when I took that video. During the entire night, it never once shone on the north side of the building. And there was only a 2 degree difference, with the moon side being warmer.
Sean, can you please present the video with the laser pen that you demonstrated before, please?
Which has nothing to do with the moonlight one.
It does, because you're demonstrating a direct cause and effect relationship, right? I want to see that, and I want to see what happens with your camera when you put the laser on.
You see an immediate temperature increase in one specific
so you
spot.
manipulated that by putting the laser on it. So what I want you to do in reverse to support your claim that the direct moonlight is actually warmer than the shade, I want you to cast a shadow and show what happens when you've cast the shadow and see and support it with your probe, because that will show the effect that you claim is there.
And again, the shaded side of the building that had no moonlight at all for 2 hours.
I don't care, that's correlative, Sean.
But you're asking for shade. I'm giving you shade for 2 hours.
No, I'm asking you for shade that you manipulate yourself.
It's still shade.
It's not shade you've manipulated yourself.
It's still shade though, and you wonder
yeah, but
why
it's correlative.
Stop running for dumb fuck of the year because you're making
So just answer me this, Riley. Just answer me this. No matter how correlative it is, why is the moonlight side of the building warmer than the shaded side when the claim is moonlight makes things cold?
Who cares? It's outside of scientific.
Now you don't care because it shits on your claim?
No, it's outside of scientific method because you're not manipulating it yourself.
It isn't.
Holding up an egg, add some salt then mix and wait for density to be proven as a force. Spelling's not his strength, nor grammar, facts and logic either. He goes by sleeping warrior on the tubes. We hear him lie like Eric Dubé. He's typing blind assertions on assertions. Where's his mind? He left it in Wigan. It's his time. We still believe that it's his year. Reds has a big reward for the lies of Riley. The lies of Riley. The lies of Riley. Five over naught is 5. He needs a triangle calculator. Eclipses every month go over the sea. We hear him lie like Eric Dubé. He's typing blind assertions on assertions. Where's his mind? He left it in Wigan. It's his time. We still believe that Earth's not flat, but he spends a lot of time in mental flatline. He'll turn off gravity anytime and have a stream twice at one time. We hear him lie like Eric Dubé. He's typing blind assertions on assertions. Where's his mind? He left it in Wigan. It's his time. We still believe that it's his year. Reds has a big reward for the lies of Riley. Well, that's all the stupid that I can deal with for today. But just before I go, I want to say a massive thank you to all my patrons. It's thanks to the support and generosity of you guys that I'm able to do this full time, bring you great content, and continue to fight the stupid. Patrons get to vote on what each episode of my series Stupid Humans will be about, early access to some videos, and the chance to come on some live streams. Your support is amazing. To join, go to patreon.com/FTFE. And thank you. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss anything from FTFE. And remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat, 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 fight the flat.